and yeah, we'll get going.
Okay, awesome.
Hey, FaB fam, it's Vinny B with Dead on Board Gaming, and I'm here with Andrew from Dice Commando. And I want to say we're friends of each other's channel, but how many times you got to interact for that to be a thing?
Once,
Just
man.
once?
That's
Then
all it
we're
takes.
golden. We're golden. I was just wondering because I was going to keep going for it. So how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Today's announcement that we're going to talk about was a doozy. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yes. FaB 2.0. And I'll be honest, I expected to be angry with something. So we'll see if we get there. Um, so as we're talking about the FaB 2.0 announcement, and the first thing right off bat was retiring first edition, which I think everyone kind of knew was gonna be a thing, but how they were gonna implement it was the question.
hmm
What do you think about how they came with it? I mean, they got rid of it and made it basically like a Magic set, right? Like it's just the set, which I thought was great, but I wonder what you thought.
Yeah, the term that we coined in my Discord was only edition. So that's what we've been saying now. It's only edition. I mean, I do think that most people, you spoke that they retired first edition. I think most people were thinking retiring unlimited. I mean, it's effectively the same thing, but it's
Right.
only edition now. Um, except those, the white border cards don't look so good.
Right.
So that'll be
I,
the question.
yeah. Well, I expect it to not be a hit. Like it's, I think it'll be gimmicky for a minute, but I think it'll follow the same. It's really funny the way the game kind of follows Magic's trajectory from back in the day, and it just like in general, like it's almost crazy. Like what was it? Like third or fourth set was printed a little heavier than it needed to be. Well, a lot heavier in Magic's thing. I don't actually think this was over crazy printed. If you know, 100, what was it, 125,000 boxes for
Oh,
Monarch or
you're
something like
you're
that.
talking Mon.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I like it was for the moment, but like in the grand trajectory, it's not many. You know what I mean? So like, as long as the game continues to be a thing, at least in my opinion, I don't know. But I don't know why I went into that. But what do you think?
Oh, in terms of numbers, and I mean, I had a whole video. I just went up yesterday,
Oh,
and
did you? Awesome. I'll have to check it out.
mixed reactions on the 125K thing. But this I'll just say it outright. I think that this is one of the best stabs at balance. I mean, who knows how it's going to play out, but I think it's a very good stab at balance between trying to get what we needed, which was, it's no secret that you need both investors and players in the market.
Yes.
Like that's a very clear thing from the history of gaming, and I think that they're taking a very good stab at making it happen. Will it be successful? Will it not? I don't know. We'll find out in 5 years, 3 years for FAB 3.0, whatever. I don't know, but
Right.
this seems it's pretty exciting. I'm in a good space right now. So
Same. And again, we'll keep getting down here, but like every single announcement, like I said, I thought I'd be angry at something, and I didn't find it, to be 100% honest. A couple weird things, but I never found it. So, anyways, so their plans to do it, so they're going to put the cold foils in there. They're going to be harder to get than they are now. The rainbow foils to replace it will be easier to get now. Um, which I actually think's awesome because I feel like cold foils lost their shine, so to speak, over the last
good pun.
three
It's a good
sets.
pun, my
Yeah, it
friend.
wasn't bad, right? um, but you know what I mean? Like it felt so special, and then I don't know. Cards, cold foils that get shuffled into your deck, I have an issue with. I don't know how you feel about any of it, or what made it feel less excited, or if it ever felt less exciting to you at all.
Well, I never owned a gem that I shuffled into my deck, so that's probably putting me in a different category as others watching this. But I agree. Actually, putting valuable cards into something that you have to shuffle always felt bad.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say your point. I think cold foils were valuable up until Everfest, right? At the point where cold foils were potions that you didn't care about, I think they I think they did themselves in with that point. But again, there's a lot of people out there probably loved getting their potion of healing or whatever the hell it was, right? But
Yeah. I mean,
so,
there's a couple of them I really like. I think they look great, but like again, like it's like the cold foil pulses. They're gorgeous, but like I don't ever want to put I don't want to do anything with them. I'm like, oh man, why? They look great though. They're beautiful.
Am I going to shuffle my $150 cold foil pulse, or will I buy a non one for $150? Yeah, I'm with you.
Or start getting white and black. You could shuffle it together, get a little, sequence in your decks. Like, there's a bunch of weird stuff that's gonna happen. It's gonna be
Somebody made that joke today about pitch stacking actually in my Discord. He's like, yeah, pitch stacking's going to be real easy now.
I didn't even think about that, but that's actually a thought.
With the sleeve requirement, it's probably not a real thing, but it's a thought. So
Well, I mean, so when I learned to play Wizard, when like me and Bob were playing whatever, I did one foil, one non-foil to help learn pitch stacking. So like that would kind of do the same thing without technically being illegal, right? Or would it fall into the same category as like foils where you have to have some percentage?
I mean, if you consider, again, I'm not an official judge I'm a level 1 judge, but I mean, I'm not the dude. But if it's a random and you random shuffle and you do it, and that's the whole point of pitch stacking is you intentionally put something on the bottom of your deck, and they can't tell you what to and not do that. So, seems to me that would work.
But... No, and I agree, but would it fall under marking your deck? You know what I'm saying? Like marking. Because you can't like flip a card upside down so you know when you're drawing it. If I know I'm drawing the white version in Blitz, say I have two, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I have a white and a black version. I almost marked my second cycle right then and there. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. That's actually a really good art. I mean, we already talked last time we took some hate for that one, but when you were on my channel, we talked about how Blitz is kind of foobarred right now. That's an excellent point, actually.
Right. But like I said, that's how I learned how to do the OTK Kano was, I sat with a foil and non-foil and learned how to do it, and then eventually took it all out and got to it. But anyways, we're getting off track.
The argument there is that you could already do it with foil, non-foil, so it probably doesn't change anything.
Sure. Yeah, which is fair. Yeah. But is it illegal to have one foil and not? You know what I mean? Like, we can go down that rabbit hole, though. Yeah. They also, I want to bring this up because I think it's funny, because I just listened to a podcast today that they were making fun of a TCG for having a rarity called Marvel, as they announced today that there's a new rarity coming out with Uprising called Marvel. And I think it was like last week's podcast for I can't remember the podcast off the top of my head, but it cracked me up. But what do you think about a new rarity?
Well, I think on the surface, if you were to ask me yesterday, hey, should we introduce a new rarity in FaB, it would be like, no, we got rid of Super, and that was a good thing. That said, the way they're implementing it, I think makes sense, right? I mean, it's a token slot rarity that's not a token, right? That's my understanding on it anyway. It seems to make sense. Well,
that's the cold foils. The cold foils are going to be in the token slot, so they won't count in draft. It is the way I understood that. This rarity is going to...
So the cold foils don't have this new rarity?
No. This rarity
I misunderstood that.
Is actually for the alternate arts. So like Channel Lake Frigid.
So it's just a more rare thing that fits in the same slot. I mean, that's fine.
Yep,
that's fine. I mean, we all know an alt art's an alt art, regardless of what the symbol is on the bottom. So put a new symbol on it. Fair enough.
Sure. No, I actually appreciate it because it's like Bravo's star of the show is a mythic, but like you get the cold foil. Why is it still a mythic? Like that is a more rare version.
Majestic. Don't get yourself lit up. Don't get yourself lit up on the YouTubes, my friend.
Yeah, it's fun like that. It's okay. Attack me. I'm good with it. But anyway, so they didn't give away anything like that. A legendary cold foil is going to be 1 in every 222 packs, but a legendary rainbow foil will be 1 in 80 packs. So you're basically guaranteed the legendary like you are now, but it's rainbow foil instead of cold foil. Is basically the same, right?
So you're throwing out the numbers, and I have a theory, and I'll see what you think about this, right? So my theory is that they're essentially like they figured out what their print run is. Like, let's say their print run is 1 million boxes. I don't know. Right?
Sure.
That's what the player demand is, 1 million boxes. And they said in the olden days we would have done 250 first edition and 750 unlimited. Now we're doing 1 million. I'm wondering if that rarity is not or the distribution of those two is not based on, hey, we're still going to print the same number of cold foils as we used to. We're just going to put them in at a collation. That's where I'm thinking is they're like, we were still only going to print 100 cold foils of whatever. We're just going to put them in far less packs. That's where my head went when I read that.
I actually think I actually kind of went to the same space. My only thing about that is it's only edition, which I'm assuming they're going to put on a timer. I actually don't know if they covered that or not. I don't remember. So if
it would make more sense to do it that way.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
So say they have to hit print again, that would change that theory, correct? Like if they're correct every time they're like, this is the number of boxes that we think, and if they're right, I agree with you. I think they know what they want it to be. But the new model would also indicate that if it gets low, we get to hit the button again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I did a video. I don't know when it was, and I had basically it was after they retired Arc, and it was after they retired Arc, and I was basically like, why do you have to retire the set? You can just print more of it, just keep it on the printing file or whatever. And somebody from the industry kind of replied, and they said something practical about why it costs you money to, even though you're not actively printing the set, it still costs you money to hold it basically in the queue.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they won't do that, won't not do what you just said. And they'll just say, hey, this is our print run, it's 1 million boxes. Okay, we undershot on, what's the next set name? It's Uprising,
yeah.
Right? So Underrising, we foobarred that one. It wasn't enough. We'll overshoot on the next one, and if it's too much, we'll dial it back. That's kind of where my head more is here.
I actually like that, and I kind of hope that is the case, because they've already overdone the last two sets, and again, that was because of their model, and the model was great, and it executed real well with ARC and WTR, like the unlimited model. It was when they didn't know where to actually place it. So I think it was like they didn't know when they were going to need unlimited, then they needed unlimited, and it made complete sense. And they were like, okay, well, now that we have this, how are we going to use it? And it caused this, the entire last year of just so many boxes of everything and not knowing what's going on. So the reason they did all this, basically.
Right. And one more thing on that real quick. So
yeah.
I'm, as you know, I'm a manufacturing engineer, right? And in terms of going back and printing more, because what they're doing is they're printing, they're making cold foils and rainbow foils of the same card that will go into the same set. So probably from a practical standpoint, what they're going to do is they're going to have the same quote unquote image files in the computer, in the printer, and they're going to change the paper or change the ink. So they'll probably do a set run of cold foils, then they'll do a set run of rainbow foils, and then they'll do the other stuff, and then they'll mix it all together and put it in the package, right? So if you were to go back and print more, you'd have to do that again. So that's why it lends to me that from a process standpoint, you would probably just do a one shot, because you're effectively printing 3 sets effectively, right? You're printing your cold foils, you're printing your rainbow foils, and then you're printing your non-foils, plus whatever, maybe 4 sets if you consider the extended arts and all the other jazz.
Sure.
And then you're mixing them together. So doing that on like a small print run basis is probably a challenge. But I mean, I don't work for Cartamundi or any of those people, so I don't know. But that's just where my head is, right? If I were to do it from a manufacturing engineer standpoint, I'd one-shot it.
No, I 100% agree. I think that's the goal. I just wonder, let's say the game does another explosive growth, which, well, we could talk about another thing. I don't want to get into any more of that. And I don't want to get off subject anymore. But if they get another explosive growth, I could see that, where does it stand? But as long as they project themselves well, I think they're always fine. And I think you're right. You overshoot a little bit and you go for it and let it be what it is. Next, they touched on the cold foil reprint policy, just basically, confirming or reassuring people that, it's still in place and not being affected by this. I do wonder if the black border editions of the, what is it, the historic?
Hmm.
Then
Historic one HR, right? One
yeah,
HR.
so kind of like a revised set, I guess. If would that be how you'd like kind of aching it? That's kind of how it
Well, but
feels.
that's hitting back to a sore subject for a lot of people. But although a lot of your viewers probably weren't even alive for that. But
That might be fair. That might be fair. Um,
yeah,
but I appreciate them coming out and at least touching on it, no matter what. White border, yay nay.
well, I think we might have already said it. I think the white borders kind of look bad, which is funny because I do want to say, hitting back to the revise thing, when I was a middle schooler, I actually liked the white border cards because that's what I could get. And I remember I had a whole bunch of white border Magic cards, and then I opened my first pack of, I don't know, something, and it had black borders, and I was like, these look like garbage. What are these? But now I can't imagine having white border cards. Like, you saw the flyer, right? That had CNC on there.
Yeah. I'm actually looking
Awful.
at Dorinthia right now, and yeah, it's weird. It's funny. See, like in Magic, I used to do my basic lands so I can find them real fast. So I would have white border basic lands in my
Mm.
thing. So for like fetches, but like I there's no applicable thing I can think of for these. So I just don't.
Well, pitch stacking.
Well, pitch
But
that
yeah,
you're right. Yeah, you're right. I guess cheating. um, so yeah, and then there's the black label, and this is kind of what I wonder: are they gonna put any type of cold foil in the black label since like French never had cold foil? So like, I'm assuming not. Well, actually, we know the answer. There's no foils in it, right? Unless the black border is that different. But the set itself has no
yeah,
foils or special
I don't
edition.
recall. I don't actually recall. That's a good point because it. I have to say, in my head, when I read it, it would have foils in it because I thought that was basically their first shot at it. But you're right; it doesn't actually say that, does it? Um,
Uh,
it's always this. Having conversation like this is always a good study in like how you read and how you interpret versus
yeah,
what's
sure.
actually said. Yeah.
Yeah, it just says it's a short print run, one time only, black label. So like I feel like they could do it, but would that be considered reprints? And then I don't know that it gets weird. But they do say it is a short print run of each language. That the black edition or black bordered edition, black label edition would be printed, and I think they said
Top
distributed it
shelf
quickly.
fab. Top
Off the
shelf.
yeah, top shelf fab. Yep, black. Give me that black label. Exactly.
Now, and you know what? That's going to be the next. I do think that those sprint runs are going to be the next fighting ground over.
Shoot.
So I do think that's going to be the next fighting ground. These black label products of the investors is because they're such short print run. And which language you fight over, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes the next speculation product.
I could definitely see that. And you know what? If it benefits, if it benefits the way that a lot of Fab players benefited at the beginning of this game, cool. Like you know what I mean? Like if they're able
Yeah.
to sell it for a good thing, get it over here and let them sit on it, cool. As long as they're getting cards to play, that's the only thing, right? The whole issue is to get them cards, but as long as they have the white border edition directly behind it, whatever.
Yep.
It's been a market game forever, on top of a great game. It's been a
Yep.
market game, so.
The big thing of that though is it does imply that they're going to support multiple languages with future releases, right?
Yes.
Because it has to. I mean, it kind of just does, right? So.
All right, so that and we were talking about the future or the history pack. So they plan on this being biannual. So that's every other year, right? Or am I messing that up?
Biannuals, yeah, biannuals every 2 years.
Okay, so actually, I messed this up the first time I read it because I thought it was twice a year, and I was like, "Why on earth?" This was the one I was gonna get angry about, and then I thought about it. I was like, "No, I think it's every other year." So, yeah, I actually love. Again, I think it's good.
No, well, and it makes sense with the number of sets they'd have. I mean, originally when I read it, I was like, oh, that's basically a block, but that's only the way they're doing it now, right? I
Right.
mean, right now it's the first block, which was the first year of the game, so you'd think that it would be. I mean, honestly, you think maybe annually would be the right amount, but then actually that's a good question actually, right? So like in theory, the next one will have Monarch and Tales of Aria and Everfest plus more in it then, right?
Yes, that sounds
Are
right.
you going to be able to get enough? Like, say you're buying in as that as a new player, if there's only 200 and some odd cards in the set, which granted they could make more, I get it. But if there's only that number of cards in the set, there's probably not enough cards to be able to support all the talents, actually.
Yeah, that it's not draftable, and I think
Right.
that's kind of the succession to it. You know what I mean? Because
Right, but I mean, even to literally have enough space for all the. I mean, you think about it right now, like there's only so many ice cards, there's only so many light cards. I mean, sure, some of them are effectively unusable. I get it, but and I get. I mean, and maybe that's where you cut your chaff. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to. See. It's just a thought.
what kind of pack would it be? Because like you're right, like the commons aren't a problem. Like
Right.
they're everywhere. So like, is it just hitters and is it
I think so. So it's a 36 card pack, and there's only 8 cards per pack or 10
okay?
cards per pack. Or sorry. Not I said that wrong. There's 36 packs per box. So
Okay.
there's 1.5 packs per box. But the cost of it is 1.5, right? Isn't it like 130 some bucks MSRP or something like that? So it's more than current MSRP. But there's more packs in there, but it's also a smaller card pack. It's like a supplemental set style pack. So I'm thinking you're going to get 2 rare majestic, but you'll have something similar to Everfest where there's potentially, there's no limit on rares majestics or something like that. And
Okay. Yeah, that could make sense. I actually don't see anything about price or anything on.
well, it's on the sell sheet. I'll see if I can find it. But I saw a sell sheet. You know what? Somebody quoted me that, so that could
Oh,
be
okay.
false
Fair,
because the
fair, fair
internet is
enough.
false. The internet, but
Right, right. Then they got into the casual state of the game, and the one thing I got real excited about because I've been talking about it for months now is that they plan on PVE being campaign oriented,
mhm.
and just hallelujah, praise from from the top of the ceiling, fantastic to me. I don't know if you're like even in the PVE. Uh, did you have any hope for it or anything like that?
So I'm not into it, but I do think that I mean, we've all known it's coming, and I think that when it lands, it's going to be a big deal because there are a lot of solo board gamers out there, and do you know why you don't hear from them? Because they're the type of person who also doesn't want to deal on Facebook or Discord or whatever, right? Like, there's a
Sure.
lot of people out there who will drop 50, $60 on a game that they can just play on their own, and maybe I shouldn't say a lot. There are a number of whatever,
Right. Yeah.
right?
They
So
exist.
yeah, but they don't, bitch about stuff on Facebook, so you never hear about them, right? I think it's a good thing. I think it'll bring people drag them in, kicking and screaming.
Sure.
Um, I think it's
Yeah.
a good thing.
I've never got super into any of the PVEs that say Magic did. They did this thing where you fought a god and stuff like that. But every time I've ever played one, it's always been a boss rush. It's like play this boss,
Hmm.
and it's never clicked with me. Maybe I'm not a PVE guy, but like this kind of got me excited because again, like every time I thought about it, I was like, this is like loans itself to you being a hero and like there's copper, there's gold, you know what I mean? Like I've even started designing this thing. Like there's like a whole you can map it out. You can get crazy with it. So I'm super glad that they it sounds like they're leaning into it. I hope it's as good as it sounds to me.
Yeah, I mean, even if it was something that, like they said, passing in a joke at one point, like a good portion of the community latched onto it at this point that it's a product that they can't not sell at this point, right?
You're
So
very right. You're very right. Um they said something about ultimate pit fight. Did you make any notes or do you want to talk about that at all? I
no,
actually just not that
I've
big of a
never
fan
played
of it.
Ultimate Pit. I've never played Ultimate Pit Fight. I'm not hating on that. Like I'm all about social gaming. I want to be very clear to your viewers. I'm all about social gaming. I think it's great. I just don't like how Ultimate Pit Fight works in this
Same,
game.
actually.
So that's. I mean, again, I want to be very clear. I'm not hating on it. I'm not against it. It just doesn't appeal to me, and therefore I've just never really put calories into it. So
Right, sure. Different strokes for different folks. And like I said, it didn't get me either. I played it only a couple times. Granted, I wouldn't say I gave it a very fair shake. But, after like 3 or 4 games, especially in a game that I love this much, I kind of knew it wasn't for me. Like, you know what I mean? And hopefully it gets better or maybe something else comes out. But kind of the same. Like I kind of skimmed over it pretty quick. Commoner,
It's
go
oh
ahead.
yeah. No, go ahead.
No, so Commoner, they went ahead and broke down what you can actually do with it. I think this is great that they actually put support behind it. This is the get your friends into it format. Like, as you add talents and stuff, these blitz decks aren't it. Maybe these dual decks that they're coming out, or what are they called? Classic battle decks,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe these are it. But like the blitz decks, I tried to teach somebody with Monarch blitz decks. Nah. Like there's just so much going on outside of just the core mechanics.
Yep.
And sure you can find Ira and stuff like that, but like the game's kind of progressing past such basicness that yes, this like again, like once they learn the basics, this is the gateway drug to me.
I mean, having a form that's always. I mean, the community at large. Well, maybe not at large, but factions of the community have been very into commoner, especially in periods of exhausted metas. Right, that's where people default. The problem is no one's been able to agree on what commoner looks like. There's been somebody who's like, well, no rares, 6 rares because that's the number of rares in a pre-con deck. You can use any hero you want, whatever. So having something formalized in of itself is what we needed.
Sure.
It's fantastic. I mean, yeah, it's what we needed, and we've already been talking. What we're likely going to be replacing. We're likely going to do commoner once every other month at our armories, and it will replace a blitz event. And based on the conversation you and I had on my channel, we're actually considering, because fundamentally that's what we've been using blitz as, is the get new players into the game thing. And blitz is not great right now for actually attracting new players, because you're a new dude, you sit down and you get OTK'd and you don't even have a chance to go. You're going to be like, what is this game? I'm out, bro.
Right.
So we will probably be leveraging commoner more in that slot.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's great. On top of, I love, so the game, like the dials are so tight in this game that Commoner still feels ultra powerful, even without all the cards. Like I was blown away when I sat down and played in a couple Commoner like armories and stuff, how like good the decks still were without any of the cards that like make the decks tick in the higher powered formats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the one challenge that they have in Commoner, which I do think LSS can solve in the next block, whatever you want to call it, is that there are certain heroes who can't do their core identity with just the commons that are available. Like, if you look at Dorinthia as she exists today, not in the 2-player set, to be very clear, like without a Warrior's Valor, Dorinthia is basically just attack reacts. So, and then there are other heroes like that where they're not very playable. So Ira's very good in Commoner, very, very good in Commoner, right, and stuff like that. So, but I have every confidence they're going to hash that out, and it's absolutely 100% what we needed. I think that was probably the big win of the day, was getting the Commoner format. That's what I think.
Right on. Yeah, like I said, it's definitely it's the gateway draw. I think it's the one that's the easiest to follow and lets you kind of express what you want to do once you kind of learn how the decks lay themselves out, without dropping any real kind of money. Like you get the right LGS, so just be like, take them, get them out of here. Like please take them. You know what I mean? Like.
Yep.
Hell, I'm not an LGS, and like I got boxes. Just hit me up. I got boxes of commons you can just have.
Yeah, my LGS, we have the donation corner, and there's 2 boxes full of FaB cards. I went through them just last week, and some people even put foils in there sometimes because they're just like, not a majestic, not a majestic, not a majestic. Right?
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Okay, so commoner. Next is the Elo. They just added Elo to different events, battle hardens. Road to Nationals and Pro Quests are all going to get Elo. Again, yeah.
It seems solid, matters to probably 10% of the population, and the population that cares about it a lot.
Yep.
Solid.
Yep. Again, super happy with that. They got rid of restricted and went with suspended, which is more of a limbo type thing for cards instead of banning, and they plan on moving this to classic constructed and blitz instead of actually just hard banning stuff or not or restricting, right? This is replacing restricting, is that correct?
Well, yeah, yes, it's correct. And I think it's actually different I think the implementation of it is going to be different by format, right? Because they actually specifically called out, I believe, Blitz on how they're
Yes.
essentially going to use it as a quote unquote, well, I'm going to get blown up for this, but it's essentially a quote unquote rotator, right? They're going to freshen up the meta by putting cards in limbo,
Right,
right?
right, right, right.
I mean, so I do think that'll be healthier for. I mean, well, the long story short here is there's no net impact, right?
Right.
Today.
Well, yeah,
Today.
they did nothing.
Right.
But if they move everything on ban lists to suspended, that opens up a lot of cards to come back as the metas or as other heroes come up to power. Because I mean, it's not a secret that some heroes just have the cards and other heroes just don't. And once everybody comes up, maybe maybe Chain could have, Seeds Agony back. Probably not. But you know what I mean? Like some of these cards, once everybody hits these power levels, that I feel like the game is on this slow burn upwards, and it's gonna have a lot of hiccups on the way, but if it ever reaches where it wants to reach, I think we're gonna kind of really see that just everybody's just so powerful that none of the stuff we complained about really mattered. It was just a way of them creating format after format after format as they slowly burnt this game out. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I mean it's non-rotating, so I think your statement is pretty thoughtful, forethoughtful. Either way.
Yeah, either which way. But moving along, because I know we just crossed the half-hour mark, so. I mean, I don't care either.
I still got half a beer.
All right, cool. Then I won't speed us away. Ban restricted. Then they talked about the weapons, and this just came out of nowhere, right? Like I never even thought about this, to be honest. This popped up, and I was like, oh, that's a good point. Like,
so it is and it isn't, and if you'll let me for a sec, I had a cast in the way back day where I asked the question, is it Ira? And this was during the Ira meta of Blitz, right? I asked the question, is it Ira or is it the Kodachis? And basically the premise of that question was, hey, we don't have any function in place aside from banning to get rid of weapons. And like if you look at the WTR weapons, they're freaking good. Like, yes. Kodachi is an amazing weapon.
Yes.
Anathos is an amazing weapon. And there's no function for those to get out. So I think that what they did today is really brilliant in concept, but I don't think the implementation is really good. Because if you like, who is using Rosetta Thorn best today? It's Viserai.
Correct.
Right? And that only goes away if Briar LL's out. But if Viserai LL's out, he takes what?
Nebula Blade
with him?
Yeah, Nebula.
So, which nobody's playing. And like Ira, I mean, I know that Ira is not the thing anymore, but she was, right? So like Ira LL's out and she takes what? The Autumn's Touch or Autumn's Edge or whatever it is,
that
like which has
right.
never seen the table ever in a competitive game. So
yeah, Edge Autumn.
Like I said, I think the concept of what they're doing is super needed, super solid. I think the implementation of it is not ideal.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And you made the best point with Rosetta Thorn, because I feel like that weapon's going to get passed around through Rune Blades for a while, unless they print a better weapon than that, which let's slow down.
God help us.
Let's slow down. So you do make a good point. Like if Briar never like peaks after this, like let's say it's Viserai LLs, let's just say, it falls into Chain. I think Chain's next in line. Personally, like power level to power level, I think Chain kind of has the better. It's a harder play pattern, but I think it's a better play pattern.
Yeah,
at the higher levels.
A lot of times Chain doesn't swing with his weapon. I get it,
right?
But he still has it. So.
And
then he takes what? He takes Galaxy Black with him, right? Is that right?
Yeah, Galaxy Black will go with him.
Yeah, which I mean, so what? Right?
Nope.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. I think the biggest one on there is that Prism's gonna get rid of Luminaris, which I won't be mad to see Luminaris go.
Yeah, which is interesting because she actually comes. She doesn't come with Luminaris, right? That's not the token weapon, and isn't that the only one on there that's not the token weapon?
No, it's actually most of them are. So the WTRs are mostly the token weapons, but
Well,
after
they have to
that,
be. They're really
right? But after that, it becomes the majestic. So like Oldham's Winter Whale, that was the majestic.
Sure. Okay. Sure.
Levia is Hexagore. Bolton is Raiden. So it's like all the majestic weapons. Voltaire goes with Lexi.
So it's more of a flavor play than it is a balancing play. But then that's my counter is it's not helping the problem statement. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, you make a point I didn't think of.
I agree fundamentally. I agree fundamentally that weapons need to rotate. Like I think weapons should have their own LL. I don't know how you track that at this point, but like I don't think this is. But again, I want to be very clear. I'm not pooping on it. I think this is the right step in the right direction.
Sure.
I think that fundamentally this is not the answer, though. Right.
No, I think you make a good point. I actually didn't think about it along that line. I just thought it was cool that they like gave them their signature weapons, like really put out like on a lore perspective, like just taking them out. I didn't even like put it together that the Briar thing again is the thing that stands out. Like you're still leaving the broken weapon, and like if Briar never sees top tier Runeblade play again, or Runeblade becomes not there, that weapon stays. But again, if it's not the top of the meta, do we care that Rosetta Thorn exists?
I think we should. I think we should. And there's a whole, you and I could probably do a whole nother cast about it, right? About the trickle down effect, right? Where just because things are balanced at the top competitive tier, there's a trickle down to your locals. And there's a lot of people who can have, like, sure, maybe Ira is only winning 50% at the top tier, but when she's 95% of your locals, everybody's sick of Ira, and then people stop playing the game. So there's a trickle down effect that matters. And when people are tired of seeing Rosetta Thorn, if it doesn't rotate out with Viscerai, that's still a problem. So,
yeah, I mean, yes.
Because let's be honest, Rosetta Thorn's probably busted, right? Luminaris is probably busted, right? And how long is it going to be, especially,
Right.
I mean, we went in the whole thing, right? But, these things go away, whatever. I'll let it go.
Okay, no, but you're right. I mean, you're right. It's like you said, we can go down that whole rabbit hole forever. I wanted to just call out for a second the idea that they know that Living Legend will be a format. I've been saying that since the day I heard of LL. I was like, that will be a format one day. So I just want to pat myself on the back. That was odd. I mean, I think it was obvious, but I've had people tell me I'm crazy, and I was like, no, I mean, like, why wouldn't they? It's legacy, right? Like, It might be 10 years down the line by the time you have enough to actually make it a format, but like, there's no reason.
How many do you
that
think you
wouldn't
need?
be.
Do you need 6 heroes to make it a format?
I think 6 is minimum. I'd like to see 8. I'd like to see exactly what this format kind of started with, 4 and 4. To actually be official, but I think you can play. You can play as little as probably 6. I think with.
Yeah, I think in order to have a meta, you probably need. Yeah, actually, probably 8. Probably.
Yeah, 8 to 10. Well, okay, 6 to 8. I'm actually 8 to 10. I'd like to see more though. I just want to see it. So, being a little thing, and that I believe is all the things.
That's all the things?
I think that's all the things, unless I missed something, but I don't think I did. No. So, did you have anything you wanted to touch on specifically?
So I did. For those of you who watch my channel, I'm not big on investing, but I want to let you all know this is what I've been investing in today is Sharpies, so that I can make all those white borders black borders. That's been waiting on that for a half hour.
It's been eating me alive. But yeah. Other than that, man, like I said, I really did. I feel like they've had a real rocky couple months, and I expected this to have something that I was not happy about, but I couldn't find one that I could even sit here and do that. And like, I don't know. Like, did you find anything you didn't like? Like, can we find something in here that we can pick apart a little bit? Because
no, I honestly, well, I don't want to sound like too much of a fanboy. I mean, there were two
Right.
concerns in my Discord. I was like, I think everything. I said this. I'll even send it to you. You can overlay it, whatever. I said that everything today was a positive. There were only two concerns I had. One is how much, because I really think the white borders don't look good and I don't want them. So how much is going to be only run? I have faith that it will be enough. But if it's not, then they'll fix it, but you still get screwed on a set, right? So how much will only edition be? And then the next thing is the weapon thing, which we already talked about at length, so we don't need to rehash that. But those were the only two
I
things I
actually
had.
expect them to walk back the white border thing in a year or so, kind of like Magic did.
Oh, interesting.
Like, I actually think that eventually people would be like, well, we hate these. I am on the thing where there's no special treatments. I think I was talking about that with Bob maybe a month ago. I was like, I'd really
Mm-hmm.
like to just see that. Put out something that's ultra cheap for just the players, exactly what they want. Let there be a $50 box where here's the cardboard, go play. And then, let us buy our $100 box with, all the stuff. That was like my initial, like, if you're gonna still break it up, make unlimited just not fancy, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean, at all. And they were like, well, instead we'll just like make it ugly and release it every 2 years.
Right. No, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. But I do expect, I actually don't expect that white border to be a thing forever. You know what I
Well,
mean?
no, I hope not. I agree with you. I'm actually kind of on board with that. I agree. Like, I'm on board with, there's no foils, period. There's
Right.
nothing. There's none of the treats. There's none of the nothing. I love that idea, but it still looks like the rest of your cards, right?
Right.
Like, that's where I think I'd like to go. The white, actually, yeah. So after we've been talking, I think the white border is my complaint from today. Again,
Yeah.
I'm not anti-white border cards, but I find it very hard to believe that there's any of your viewers who would be like, yeah, I want white border,
No,
right?
I have a
So
couple people that maybe, but it's literally to tilt the people that get annoyed by white border. like in Magic, I had a buddy that played all white border because he knew like there was two people at our local scene that like hated it so much. So like his whole deck was just white border to tick that guy off. So there's funny things like that, but again, I don't know. Like, I guess we'll see the way. Maybe I'm wrong and people enjoy it more than I think. But so far, the game has followed this trajectory again that just seems a lot like the beginning of Magic, and Magic backed off of it too because eventually people were like, "This is ugly in comparison." And I think they ran White Border for like 5 years. It was a while
Magic ran white border for a long
for
time.
for a while. So it might take a while, but I do expect it to kind of go back to because I think they'll run into the same problem where people are just like, we don't want this, even though you're giving me the cards. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Well, it'll come down to sales, right? I mean,
right,
if that's actually what we need. I mean, not that I want this to happen, but that's what we need to happen to swing that is they need to have a set that they underprint in terms of demand, and then they're like, oh man, this set was underprinted for demand. We need to print an S ton of black label, or sorry, not black label. We need to print an S ton of historic, and then nobody buys it because it's ugly.
right.
They'll probably, I mean, you look at what happened. They're not dumb. Like, they'll
Yep.
fix the problem. But it is kind of unfortunate that we have to get into a game of chicken to fix that. That's a kind of a bummer. But
Sure.
I mean, I think what he's trying to do, he's trying to make a very clear, he's trying to keep his collectors, his investors happy. He's trying to make a very clear delineation of you're the cool kids and you're the
Right.
dirty, unshowered, unwashed minions.
Well, it's like a timeline, right? Like if you have the white cards, you probably started a year to 2 years after that set came out. Like,
Yeah, or
you,
you just got unlucky and didn't pull an Easter egg, right? I
well,
mean,
well,
that's
yeah,
part of it
sure,
too, right?
right.
So
Yeah, that's very true too. But yeah, it's weird. It's a weird thing. We'll see where it goes. But other than that, I don't have a whole bunch. If you have anything else you wanted to kind of touch on, no. Well, Andrew,
no,
man,
just I just wanted to thank you for having me here. It's always great. Well,
no,
the twice that we've done it, it's been great chatting with you, and we're going to do this a lot more. So
100% agree. 100%. Man, I appreciate you, Andrew. Go ahead and tell them what you're doing and everything. And before we when we get off here, I want to talk to you about some Destiny. We've been playing
Oh,
that.
yeah.
We've been playing that the last couple of weeks. So before you actually leave, but anyways, go ahead and tell them what you got going on and everything like that.
Yeah. So, well, thanks everyone for listening to us. Talk about our feelings and hopes and dreams. But I'm Andrew from Dice Commando. You can find us over at youtube.com/Dice Commando. We cover, as he mentioned, Star Wars Destiny, but we're mostly into FaB these days because that's the big sexy, and it's also what keeps us entertained on a day-to-day basis. So we do casts, we do deck techs, we do all sorts of stuff. So check us out. Thank you again, Vinny. Oh, I went the wrong way. Thank you, Vinny, for having me on tonight. This has been super awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I really enjoyed the 2 times, and hopefully we can keep this going. But
hopefully it'll happen.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I'm Vinny B. This is Dead on Board Gaming. That's Dice Commando, and we will catch you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us.